I'm a big fan of having frameworks, and there's a company, Strategic Coach, that many entrepreneurs. I used to send a lot of entrepreneurs to Strategic Coach, and they had frameworks that you would. So they had a timetable for the week. So you had a very specific framework, looking at like what are your 3 big projects to get done, what are the 10 little steps. But every week you were looking at that same framework, so it became quite familiar to you. And um, I'm a big fan of writing down by hand your big, big, big goals. I'll tell you why. I remember when I was in my 20s, I paid a lot of money to go to a seance with a psychic. And I went with all my girlfriends, and we were so excited by this. And, go in, and she's feeling my aura, and she thinks I'm Australian because I have this funny accent. And so the entire reading was about Australia. You're going to be, in the big boats sailing, and, all this stuff. And so I came home so disappointed, and I had the cassette tape. I couldn't even listen to the tape again. And I had spent a lot of money. And I thought, what did you do? And I got a book and a pen and paper. And I said, I wanted her to tell me I was going to live this amazing life. At 60, I would have this. At 55, I would be this. At 40, I'd be living like this. I'd be here. And then I thought, okay, well, map it out. So I did it page by page, decades. Each decade was a different page, what I wanted to be. And I wrote out all these things, which, I wanted to write a book at that point. I've written 3 books since, but I wanted to do an MBA. I wanted to go into finance. I wanted to, all these different things. But at the time, I was just a little girl. I was a new immigrant to Canada. I'd heard on the grapevine that in Canada, as a woman, you can do anything. So I was being inspired by all of that. But, I still have that book, and I am now far beyond by the time I was 40, I was far beyond the entire book. But I write my goals every year, and I think there's so much value in just taking that old pen and paper, not even a computer, and just writing it and having a book that you have for the rest of your life. And really setting some really horrible, impossible goals that you're never going to meet. I have a lot of those still. And you have to let those go, and it's painful. And, 4 years later, I still feel pain because I didn't achieve those different things. But I've achieved very other different things that I hadn't put into my book, when I was writing out my notes. So I think, it's always discomfort. If you are comfortable and you're, like, I like to be in the deep end once a week and thrown in and just go for it. And that's what you need to do with yourself, is put yourself in the deep end.